The most powerful stories come from the ones we see every day. Not every journey is loud. Some are quiet, raw, and still changing lives. This is Unformed, where real stories unfold. Hello, Dr. Haitham. I'm very happy to have you in the studio with me today. Dr. Haitham Solh, in my mind, and the way I knew you a bit over 10 years ago, I think it was. I feel very old. But it was not the same Dr. Haitham Solh who is now today with me in the studio. Can you please take me through how did your fitness journey start and what got you to start running specifically?
Well, thank you for having me on your podcast. It's a pleasure to be with you today. My fitness journey started a little bit around 10 years ago when you saw me at the university as an overweight, obese, category 2 guy that almost hit rock bottom, have had a heart attack, have had financial and physical difficulties, work problems, all sorts of things that happen in life in general. People find different ways to relieve their stress, take out their problems on something. Some drink, some, use illegal substances. I was an emotional eater. And I took it out on the food, and I saw that there was no way out of this when the pounds or the kilos kept piling up. So at some point, when I was unable to find a pair of pants for the university graduation, and I had to go to a store called Big and Tall to find my pair of pants or my suit, I felt like this is it. This is the end for me. I've already had advice from the doctors saying that if you continue on this path, it is not likely that the next time you come back to the operation table would be for a simple procedure like an angiography or an angioplasty. It'll be for a more serious thing. You might, have a more serious heart attack, and we cannot guarantee anything. So you'd better turn things around.
So when you first visited the hospital, it was an incident caused by your lifestyle, right?
Absolutely. I was scheduled to fly my mom away to Lebanon. I felt discomfort. I had greasy, fatty food. I had a temper problem, and I was angry with, I don't even recall who I was angry with at that time at home. And I felt pain, I felt difficulty, heavy breathing, drove myself to the hospital because I didn't want to bother anybody. And with the understanding that maybe it's, I was thinking maybe it's, a stomach issue or anything that's minor. And they said, you can't leave here. Your heart level, your enzyme levels are too high. You're actually having a heart attack. You really need to stay here. Had to cancel my flight, was taken the next day to a different hospital, and I was operated on. And at that time, I was 126.8 kilos.
Wow. You remember it like it was yesterday.
Because I remember my vitals at that time. I remember the blood pressure. I remember the cholesterol the first time that they've, tested. And it's, you only reap what you sow. You spend years and years in a sedentary lifestyle. You don't exercise. You don't, you eat whatever you want, whenever you want. And what do you expect is going to happen? To be a model? I don't think so. What you put inside, you are what you eat. What you put inside will be reflected on you one way or another.
When did you feel that there was something wrong? Like I really needed to change who I am. Why did you wait until there was a health crisis for you to change, if I may ask?
Well, this is a good question. I would say, as I said, different people deal with things in different ways. I think I wanted to bury, all these problems under the rug, like in the cartoons where somebody sweeps things under the rug and covers them. And I was under the impression that at some point things will magically change maybe. And, when it was time for me to look to potential solutions, it was scary. And I think a lot of people may feel that way. A lot of our listeners who might be, concerned about like, what am I supposed to do and how am I going? And look at me, really, do you see me 120 plus kilograms running or doing exercise? So it was a combination of being scared of what the future, potentially will hold, as well as maybe my conscience, my being, my understanding of things was, fighting with the subconscious and telling them, no, everything is gonna be fine at some point. I think that was it.
We are used to staying in our comfort zone, and to create a change in life, and specifically to shift part of your identity, because at some point you, as you said, you are what you eat, but also it becomes part of what you do. Sometimes you get stuck to a certain restaurant, you're always ordering from that specific restaurant, you're always having a specific set of things that you do daily, and to shift that to the person who you want to be, it requires all of those to change to fit the new identity who you're aiming to be.
Right.
And I think most people always get scared, or they get scared from how hard it is. In that specific period where you were trying to do that shift between who you were and how you want to be, how did this as well affect you emotionally? Because you're a dad of two. How do you feel this affected the image of how your kids as well see you?
Yeah, this is a very good question, and I really think that this is one of the reasons that made me look at things from a different perspective. So when you're living by yourself, you can do whatever you want, and you think that it will affect you only. Or, for the most part, maybe some of the people who care about you, your parents, your friends, etc. But when you are responsible for a pair of youngsters that are looking up to you and they're imitating you. I've been in the field of education for some 25 plus years, and I can tell you for a fact that students and kids and human beings in general, they rarely learn by talking. They rarely learn by lecturing, trust me, okay? They learn by doing, by imitating, by seeing people. I tell my students, if learning is done by lecturing or by watching, then I could watch Michael Phelps, the swimmer, and become an excellent swimmer. I could watch an NBA basketball player and become excellent at basketball. It doesn't work like this. It works by actually imitation and seeing people doing it. And that's why I saw that my son started to have a temper. My daughter was young, girl. People don't think about babies in terms of weight and whatever. But when I start seeing them following a pattern of eating whatever, whenever, consuming high amounts of sugar, because that was available. It was my snacks that were there, and people were sharing them with me. Yeah. So if I didn't bring those snacks, nobody will be. Maybe when they feel like they want to have a snack, they might have something healthy. They might have some piece of fruit that is lying there in the fridge. It's that thing. It's the sense of responsibility. I want to watch them graduate from school, like I recently watched my son graduate from high school. I want to walk my daughter down the wedding aisle. I want to be a grandfather one day, and that was not going to happen if I was to continue doing the things that I was doing during that period. So something flipped inside. A switch flipped and says, you know what? Enough is enough.
Were there at any point an interaction with your kids where it really left you like, oh, I really did wrong to myself?
Yeah, you're referring to the beach incident. I took Omar and Hannah to the beach one day. Beautiful, lovely weather. It was November. Breezy, people running around, beach balls and all kinds of stuff. Omar, had his uncle also with him, was a relatively, normal person. I wouldn't even call him a fit guy. And we were racing each other. And Omar not only beat me, at that time he was maybe, 10, 11 years old. And so kids are relatively fast. But he was so far away, I lost breath halfway through that 100-meter or 50-meter sprint or whatever. And it left me embarrassed and ashamed that I was unable to keep up with him. And something in my mind was telling me, look, if you are unable to do this at this stage, do you really think you're going to be playing basketball with him and, doing gym work with him and whatever? Something has got to give. Something's got to change if you want to really enjoy bonding with your son. God knows I never had the chance, unfortunately, to bond well with my father. Passed away very early, spent quite a bit of his, life traveling and working overseas. So I didn't want to repeat that experience.
And how did the shift for you start?
Okay, so I was lucky. Okay, so a few things fell into place. And they combined together to the path that I walked and to where I am today. The launch of the Dubai Fitness Challenge was a big step, because I heard about it, from a group of people that I started hanging out with when it was Ramadan. I think it was 2018. And this friend of ours, started doing these so-called suhoor runs or food runs, where people will get together and run for a certain period of time, very short, 30, 40 minutes, and then get together and have food and socialize. And it was nice. It was needed for me because I needed A, the encouragement, and B, the kind of motivation. So, food after the workout, at least you'll feel less guilty. And you also, because you're in a social setting, you want to control your portions and your appetites. You really are not going to order, 2 platters and an insane amount of calories, especially after a run. So it helped, we started running. Of course, the first run, they were dots for me. They were far away and they were not going fast paced, but that's okay. I was able to, walk and run and jog and carry myself. And I was thinking, okay, so this is a good start. Maybe the next one will be a little bit better, and so on and so forth. And it was a continuous thing. So the number one thing in terms of starting for me was having a supporting group. And God knows today in Dubai, there isn't a shortage of these communities. And then the second one was consistency. In this day and age, people look for quick fixes. You hear all the time about those drugs that people inject themselves in. They look for surgical procedures. I have a wedding on Saturday. Let me start losing weight on Monday. These kinds of things that are, realistically speaking, of course, if you tell them to every rational person, they would say, no, that's not going to happen. But in the mind of someone who's wanting the quick fixes, say, let me give it a shot, what's going to happen, So to me, it was having those groups, and there is plenty of them. I can talk for hours about those supporting communities. And then consistency, showing up and expecting that the results are going to come after a while. It doesn't have to be. I give the example all the time. Which one is tastier? A burger that you flipped for 2 minutes on some, greasy grid, or a slowly smoked brisket lying there for 16 hours. The moment you take it out and you start cutting and you see those juices and you taste the tender meat, it is really, really a huge difference in terms of quality and in terms of the outcome.
Yeah, you reminded me of something that I posted a few days ago, and a really good friend of mine who we haven't talked probably for the last 5 years reached out to me, and she told me, I screenshot this, and today I wanted to go to the gym in the morning and I didn't feel like going to the gym. And then I opened it, I read it again, and then I went back. And it meant the world to me because I read something in a book and I posted it. And it says that there's no shortcut. The shortcut never gets you there. People always look for shortcuts because they think that hard will last. And if you remind yourself in that instance that the hard is temporary, I'm either going to get stronger or it's going to get eventually easier. Because most likely it's normally both. You get stronger and you get used to something, so it gets much easier, so you get better at it. And you mentioned something about the community, and this specific topic means a lot to me because I really believe no one can do it alone. It's almost impossible for you to get better at something or to do something alone. Yes, I did walk into that gym. I did decide that I don't like who I see in the mirror. I decided that it's enough. I don't want to be that person anymore. But if I didn't find those amazing people that I found at the gym, I wouldn't have been able to do it on my own. And it always hits me as well when I attend classes, and especially in Dubai and especially in the fitness community. I love all communities. I know a lot of people group around different interests, but the fitness community in specific is one of those communities that always pushes you up. They always push you higher. They always ask you to do more. They believe in you sometimes much more than how you believe you can do, or you believe in yourself in that specific time. And I want to share something that is small that got me as well very emotional when I first started my fitness journey. When I entered the gym, I was an open heart surgery patient who just got a compression fracture in her L1. I was way overweight. I had a very high fat percentage. I was really depressed, and I felt like there was nothing I can do with myself because khalas, everything is just not going well for me. And I walked into that gym and a couple of people told me, let's attend this class specifically. And I said, no, I can't show up like that because I'm embarrassed to even do anything, because what will I do in that class? And look at all of those people in that class. Look at how they look at how amazing they are performing. And then with the push of the people around me and the amazing push of my trainer, he told me, you're gonna book it and you're gonna show up. And I did book it and I showed up, and the coaches were more the support of the coaches were just incredible. I left that class feeling so much better, feeling that, okay, I couldn't do the moves correctly. I couldn't do a lot of the moves. However, I'm still learning, and everyone was helping, everyone. And until now, I love those classes. I attend them all the time. But also, I make sure that if there's someone who is new, who cannot do the moves, I show them the same support I got. And it's amazing. It's so heartwarming to see that, for example, in CrossFit, sometimes when you can't do a move, a few days ago as well, we all made a circle and we were cheering for someone who was just a beginner in that class to try to get it done, and she did it.
Yeah.
And I just love that. I just love the sense of the community that is in.
This was, as you said, this is a key. Now, I want to slightly disagree with you when you said no one can do it alone. There are exceptions, of course, but as you said, it becomes much easier because most of the communities that I was part of, and I'm known for the large majority of the fitness communities in Dubai. Because I'm one of the very few, if not the only professor, running around town, but also because I don't believe that this is an exclusive club. On the contrary, this is the one thing, unlike money or other things where people like when they share it, if they share the money, everyone, the more people, the less the share. this is the one thing where the more people get involved, the share is even better and higher because you get more support. This is like an endless bag of continuous giving. And so I believe it's a win-win situation. It's a mutual benefit. The people who encourage you, they want to be part of your fitness journey. They want you to remember them. I still remember the number of people who were assisting me in any way, shape, or form for the past 5+ or 6 years. Because in the beginning, when I was running, when I was jogging, when I was attempting to do any sort of tough workout, they were by my side and they were saying, "We believe in you, you can do it." And that becomes a cornerstone of this consistency, because the next day in the morning you say, "You know what, I don't want to disappoint X, Y, or
They're
Z.
waiting for me.
They're waiting for me. They're encouraging me. I want to be part of this." So it becomes much better with those communities. Of course, if a person has decided that they want to go solo, they probably, some can. It would require an amazing and an excellent motivation, which usually comes and goes, and a very strong mindset. So for both of these things, they could happen. There are exceptions, but with the communities, with the support, I'm with you 100%. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for the tens and hundreds maybe of people that were part of this, and they just clapped at the end of a certain race. They give you a push. Some of them come to the end of the races and the last 200-300 meters, and they say, "I want to run with you those last, so I want to cross the finish line with you." And believe it or not, when I became much fitter, I was one of those people who want to take the latecomers and cross with them the finish line. So what goes around comes around in that case.
Definitely. Talking about the finish line, how did it feel for you to cross your first ever finish line? And what was it?
To be honest with you, the first couple of ones, the shorter ones, they weren't really great memories, because I was one of the hundreds of people that were crossing a finish or a 5K or a 10K. But I want to talk about two instances that really, really stick to me. In 2020 in Ras Al Khaimah, I ran my first ever half marathon. I was still fluctuating, so we had mentioned, it is important to mention this, even if we don't get the time to delve into it deeply, that this whole fitness journey is not a straight line. We never, ever continuously evolve towards the best. I hit my ups and downs and whatever. In 2019, while I was working so hard, I received the terrible news that my mom, who was on dialysis, kidneys were not functioning well anymore, and it was only a matter of days, weeks, month, whatever it is. And again, it immediately flipped 180 degrees. The emotional eating, the lack of exercise. I was depressed, and we as men, we have difficulty expressing this, and admitting that we are depressed. So we take it out, on food, on anger, on whatever. And so it's never linear. It goes through these ups and downs. On 2020, I was, trying to turn things around after suffering this emotional loss. I was roughly around a little bit less than 3 hours, which is a terrible timing for a half marathon. My last one was 2:08, and I'm still, my Strava predicts that the next one is going to be 2:06. So it's kind of like, I understand exactly what is the meaning of a fast half marathon now. But at that time, a couple of friends of mine from that supportive running community, the 5:30 run group, they were waiting for me at the finish line with the video camera, with the phones, and 4, 5, 6 of them ran with me the last 100 meter, and they kept pushing me, and I was crossing the finish line. I was overweight. I had a headband on, and I was like pushing and saying, yeah. And it was such a feeling. If you watch that video and you're not looking at the time, you'd say that this guy at least won his age category. I kid you not, like you would say this guy is like, this is like his first ever sub 2 marathon. sub 2 half marathon. And so that was a memory that stuck with me, and I enjoyed that feeling. It was an immense achievement because I never looked at myself and then when I say I could run 21 kilometer.
What switched for you? Because honestly, for me as well, when I crossed my first half marathon as well, the finish line, I reached crying. I spent the last 100 meters crying, literally. And especially that everyone who's waiting for the finish line, or the finish line starts actually almost 50 meters before the actual finish line. And when I reached, and it's 21 kilometer, almost 21 kilometer, I looked at everyone and everyone was cheering. And I'm like, oh my God, like I did it. Like I'm there. I didn't get disqualified. Nobody came and took me before because I couldn't make it. And I was running bush to bush, and you get different cutoff times. And for me, my only goal at that time was to just make sure I don't get disqualified.
Right.
Because I'm an open heart surgery patient. I never ran when I was a little kid. For me, it wasn't part of what I do. I was sitting on the sidelines when the kids were having their sports session with the instructor, because I had to always sit on the side and protect my heart. So I can't do this high intensity. And then it all flashed back. I got a flashback 100 meters before the finish line, and I couldn't stop myself from crying. And I'm like, just focus, it's only 100 meters, just get it done. And I crossed the finish line crying. And then my sister came, she was like, what happened? Like, are you okay? I'm like, I don't know why I'm crying, I'm just crying.
Happy tears. You wait until you cross that marathon finish line.
Soon, hopefully soon. And talking about the finish line, so what, in terms of the mindset, what did you believe before or after the marathon? You did not believe it before, because everyone talks about this before and after. And even the best athletes, they always tell you when I set myself a challenge and I get it done, there is a person before and there is a person after. How do you define that happened for you?
Well, there are two things involved in here. One, as you said, it is the power of the mindset. They say you run, the first half of your marathons with, your legs, whatever the saying is, the remaining, or a quarter, the next quarter of the marathon with your heart, and then the last one with your mind. Because it's when the mind tells you that you can't do something, that you need to have this attitude of, I'm going to show you that I can do this thing. And this comes from a variety of both emotional as well as inspirational stories. So you read about all those peoples that do way more. To me, my biggest inspirations are the ones that have done way, way, way more than what I'm doing. Which it makes what I'm doing look trivial. Like it makes like, it's like, you go to the gym and say, a kid tells you, look, I was able to do lift this 5 kilo dumbbells for 10 reps. Say, great for you. But you know what? In my world, that doesn't count like a challenge. You don't tell them that out loud, but that's what you're thinking. So I was looking at people who were running an ultra marathon every day for the Dubai Fitness Challenge. I was reading the David Goggins and what he did and how he turned his life around from a homeless person sleeping on the floor to somebody who is, a world-renowned inspirational figure, a motivational speaker, someone who does these challenges that I've done. I've challenged myself to do them time and again, not once, not twice, not 3 times. I mean, if you tell someone, there is this professor that I know who woke up on his 50th birthday at 3 o'clock in the morning, ran for 50 kilometers, went back home, showered and changed, and went to the office as if everything is fine, they would say to you, you must be crazy, But that is exactly what happened about 6 months ago. That's the kind of thing that you need to overcome this trickle of doubt that comes to your mind. Say, am I doing things right? Is this really productive?
So you set your mind challenges that are in your mind, they're really hard or almost unachievable. And then you commit to achieve them.
You just say the word the challenge to me, and then that's it. I could go on for days without eating while maintaining drinking water, electrolyte, green tea, my favorite drink in the world, coffee, I could live with that. I have no problem with this at all. And this is all scientific. I'm not advising people to do that. I'm just saying, if you tell me I challenge you to do so and so, I'm saying that I'm there. And if you adopt this mentality, nothing will become difficult. Now, the second thing that you need on top of this is, what is the saying that Muhammad Ali, I think, said? It doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down, you just need to get up one more time. So if you get knocked down 9 times, you need to get up 10, and then that's it, And so not all of the challenges are going to be easy breezy. The first time I attempted to run an ultra marathon, I was unable to do that. So on my 46th birthday, I wanted to run for 46 kilometers. I even printed medals to give to the people, Haytham's 46-kilometer birthday run. And we went to Kite Beach, and by the 42nd kilometers, my legs were shot. By the 40th kilometer, so I said, let's finish just the marathon. And people were telling me, it's just 4 kilometers. It's just 4 kilometers. You just ran 40. I said, I couldn't. The mind was blocked at that time, and the legs were shut, and I was.
You stopped on 4 kilometers.
42. I stopped at the 42. I said, okay, I made a strategic decision to do 42.
Yes, at least.
Let's finish the marathon. And then the next year after this, I was unable because I was in a bad shape. So I cycled for the remainder of. I ran 20 and I cycled for 27 or something. When you continue to face these challenges. And sometimes you will fail at them, and sometimes you will be able to overcome them. There is no better feeling in the world than to say, I set my sight on a certain challenge and I was able to achieve it. It's not to show off. It's not for the Instagram post. It's not to gloat. You're not going to get any reward, It's not about. I never post things to say, look what I have done. I only post things to say, if I can do it, I am the normal, average person, not the fastest runner, not the most fit person. I still have a little bit of fat in me, and I understand that. But I have one thing that is going on for me, and it is my mindset. It's when I look at something and I say, I believe that I can do this thing, and I'm going to attempt it, and I'm going to try to do it, and I'm going to work for it, and I'm going to plan for it. It can be done. What is it? Tell me an insurmountable challenge that one cannot do.
And you reminded me of something as well. Once it was one incident that it stuck to me, and I always remember it when I'm not able to do something. Once I was training with my coach, and I hate running. I really hate running with all my heart because I'm bad at it. And I recognize that, and it just challenges me biologically, physiologically so much. And I was trying to run 400 meters. This was the challenge of the day. 400 meters at a speed of 10 or 12, I don't remember. And I couldn't maintain it. I was running out of breath. Imagine 400 meters at a speed of 10 or 12. I couldn't do it. I was stopping at like 300, 310 or 280. And then my coach stood next to me and he was like, look, I don't have a session after you. You're not getting off that treadmill until you get it done. And I almost cried. I'm like, please stop it. I cannot do it. And he was like, your body is functioning properly. You're able to do it. You have so much energy. It's your mind telling your body that you're not able to do it. But I need you to shift that talk, and I need you to start talking positively to your body. Just tell me that you can do it. Just look at me and tell me I'm not going to get off that treadmill until I get it done. And literally, he didn't even have to stay overtime with me because I did get it done. And after I got it done, he looked at me, he was like, see, it's you and your mind. It's your body is it's an incredible machine. If you're healthy and you're able to push through, it's your mind that stops you. And from that time, every time I go through a really hard workout, I always try to remember, is it my body or is it my mind? Like, what is it? And it's an inch by inch strategy. Like, another 200 meters, another 500 meters, yalla, another 1K, and then you're done. You finish it.
100%.
You also did the 4x4x48 challenge.
Yes, so this was a couple of times, actually. I did it 3 times, and it's all for charity. And this is the ultimate test, in my opinion,
Can you
of
tell us,
the mindset.
for whoever doesn't know, what is it? Can you please
So
explain?
the 4x4x48 is a David Goggins challenge that is run every year in March, usually the first weekend of March, but people can do it anytime during the year. It consists of running 4 miles, that's roughly 6.5 kilometers, every 4 hours for 48 consecutive hours. You finish an equivalent of 2 marathons in 2 days. I did it to raise funds for a variety of charities, for 2 different charities, Al Jalila Foundation 1 year and Smile Train that deal with cleft lip for kids the year after that. And alhamdulillah, I was able to raise funds enough, reach my target and exceed it for every one of those challenges. This is now, you don't eat properly, you don't sleep properly, you are continuously on the clock. You need to time yourself, where to run, when to run, what like waking up at 1:30 in the morning, because at 2 o'clock I was blessed to have a track underneath my building, so I would be running on that track. Pace was not a major issue if you think about it, but it's also a major issue because you need your sleep. So when I wake up normally in the morning, I don't put on my gym clothes and go running directly. There is a period of adjustment, and that was it. That was what Goggins Challenge teaches you is that the power of the mindset is extremely high, but people use very little of that. And I don't mean all the people. I'm saying the large majority of the normal person would look at this and say, "No, I can't do it." But to me at that time, when I was thinking about it, and I was saying, it's for a good cause. So can you a little bit push yourself? What's going to happen? You're going to be a little bit tired. You're going to be a little bit hungry. You're not going to eat properly for a couple of days. Good. So you reward yourself with a big meal after that. As long as you are capable of thinking, I can do it. And as you said, physically, you are able to do this. I don't. Initially, it was a huge challenge. A second time, it became a little bit better. The third time, I think it's the one time that I enjoyed it the most, because I was timing myself and I wanted to have like a consistent pacing throughout the runs. And I was actually happy doing it. So when I finished the last leg, I went back home and I think I wrote a post, or I went Instagram live, and I said, okay, well, there you go, that David Goggins challenge. I now need to think about something a little bit more challenging.
Yeah. And it's crazy how when you're talking about it, you light up, because those things are earned, they're not given.
Absolutely.
I don't think I was ever proud of myself more than when I set a challenge that almost seems impossible for me and I get it done. Nobody can give you that feeling. Nothing can give you that feeling.
Just to piggyback on this quickly, last April, I was supposed to be doing a Hyrox race in Sharjah. It was doubles.
It was your first, no?
It was my first, yeah. And I had difficulties setting up things with a partner, because my first partner had a shoulder surgery. My second partner, the one that I trained with afterwards, caught pneumonia on his travels. And so I was stuck with whomever was available for me. And because we didn't train together, because I didn't engage that person's fitness level, he ended up cramping on like the 3rd station, after the run of the 3rd station or 4th, I can't remember. And we went to the organizers and they said, okay, fine, what can you do? You can just leave. And I said, can I take his sensor and complete it? Because I didn't train all this, not to finish. And I went and I did, all the remaining
Solo.
5 stations solo. And that's the power of the mindset, because the mind can tell you one of two things. You know what? It's not your fault. Who's going to blame me? Anyone's going to blame and say, I was training with a partner, was supposed to be running with that partner, and the partner bailed out on you. By the way, our names never showed up on that leaderboard.
Even though you finished it.
But the feeling of crossing the finish line, of achieving more than what you set out to achieve. Hyrox in itself is a challenge. Hyrox solo for 5 stations or 4 stations, when you, in your mind, you were planning to split the workload. 100 wall balls at the end is not an easy, thing to do, but it was done. Split it. Do whatever is necessary. Your mind will be able to get you there if it says to you, if you listen to that little voice inside that says, you can do it.
How does this mentality as well, or the importance of this mentality in applying it to everyday life, do you think that it changed your view on things that are not fitness related?
100%. Look, a dear friend of mine to me said, life is 30% what happens to you and 70% how you deal with it. Now, the percentages may vary from one person to another, and I want to be accurate as a math professor, but it's really, you can look at something as a disastrous event that's going to ruin your life, or a time to open a different page. You know the saying, when God closes a door, he opens a window somewhere else. I got things that happened to me in life that really, really exemplify this. And there are way too many to mention in here. Like, you get fired from a certain job in a different country, and you think the world is crumbling down because you have apartment payments and you don't know what's going to happen, and this was the only job that you held, and you turn around and you travel to a different country looking for another job, and on the day you arrive, you get a call from your home country saying, come back, your dad is in a coma. And then the next day, while you're doing your job interview, your father is going through his last breath. And these things happen, How do you deal with that? Do I feel sorry for myself and sit and say, but I can't do that, I need to look at this and say, there's always a way. Nothing happens for no reason. This happened for a reason, and I need to understand that even though I don't see the big picture right now, later on I'll be able to see it. And I was. And to exemplify this, I didn't mention the job, I didn't mention the other country. The 2 people who were roommates with me in that particular, workplace, in that particular country, are still doing the same thing that they were doing 20 plus years ago. We came there together in 1997. They are still there. I went and I got my master's and my PhD. No disrespect to anyone. This isn't saying that what they're doing is wrong. I'm just saying that this was an opportunity for me to break out from my previous role, which was limited, confined to a specific setting with the specific parameters. Whenever something bad happens, think about it from a different perspective of, oh my God, my world's crumbling down. Because it rarely is. I'm not saying it's never, I'm saying it's rarely is. You look at it and then you say, what can I do about it? What can I do about it? It may not be easy. It may be extremely difficult from a physical, a financial perspective, but there must be something that comes to your mind that says, if you can't do this by yourself, seek help. Look around, ask people, talk. We have this, in my humble opinion, this upcoming decade or so is a decade where communication and talking and opening up is gonna be like a rare, currency, because people are stuck to their phones and they're texting and we need to talk to the people around us and seek advice. Like my life coach once said, what's the worst that could happen? You're in financial trouble and you really need a small loan, and you know that a friend of yours is doing well. What is the worst that could happen when you approach them and say, listen, my guy, Here's the situation right now. I'd like your help, etc. Worst case scenario is going to say, I can't help you. That's fine.
But you never had it anyway. If
Nothing
you didn't
changed.
ask.
That's what I'm saying. You're still here. So you have two possibilities. Option one, problem solved. Option two, problem is still there. It's not going to get worse. It's not going to get worse.
Unfortunately, even today, men are less likely to speak about their problems. And I'm not sure if it's something that is a society problem or a cultural problem, but unfortunately, men are 4 times more likely to commit suicide than women, because women are much more likely to communicate their feelings and to seek help. And that's a really sad things to see, but it's also at the same time so much, it's very heartwarming to see communities who starting to speak about it more, to normalize it more. A lot of the communities in Dubai are doing an exceptional work for men's mental health. And I think, unfortunately, it hasn't been addressed before a lot, but the good thing is that we started to see more men opening up, more men normalizing that I'm not well, I really need help. And I think we're lucky enough to be living in a community or a space where it's okay to be not okay.
Absolutely, 100% agree. And to, I'm not sure if we still have a lot of time, but I would like to, maybe highlight an important aspect of this. I know I've shared a lot about my journey. You talked also about part of yours. It is important to know that this is not a one-size-fits-all type of recipe. What happened to me is a combination of things. So I was blessed to have that type of mindset. Not everyone has it. It can be built and there are ways to enhance it, but not everyone has it. I was blessed to be surrounded by people who wanted to see me succeed. I was blessed to be working in a job where I could provide for myself some form of financial freedom that enabled me to go running around left and right, first in Dubai, then all over the world. Then, these kinds of things, sign up for these classes. I know it's a financial commitment, it's a time commitment. I am not saying that this is a journey where I alone with my strong mindset and my, tight hamstring and bad knee were able to overcome all these difficulties. I'd love it if people can get inspired by that. But so many factors have got to come into play so that a success is there. What I would like our listeners to understand is that there is nothing wrong with reaching out to people around you. And God knows we have tens of amazing communities that I salute. I may not run with community X, Y, or Z, but I always see them on the track, in the races, sometimes internationally. And I say hello, and how are you doing? And I wish you a successful race. This is the kind of thing that people need to understand. The moment you open up and come to anywhere you look, any park next to you, you're going to find a number of people that are going to be willing to embrace you, take you along with them and say, come and let us help you. And the second thing is consistency. Do not expect instantaneous results. You have to show up every day. As you said, it is hard. It is not easy. It's not always the case. Fine. You couldn't show up the next day, show up the day after that, because that's the only way you're going to guarantee that both your mind and your body are on the right track.
Unfortunately, we are forced to wrap up, but before that, we are celebrating.
Today, I closed my 2000s ring. It's been since January 7, 2020, and if you Google then, since then until today, it's 2002 days. So out of the past 2002 days, I was able to close the rings on the Apple Watch for 2000. Not necessarily consecutive. I don't know where those 2 days went, but I know for a fact is that I'm going to show up, inshallah. If I wake up tomorrow, I'm going to show up and I'm going to do whatever is in my training plan. And if I don't, I'll just walk around and feed the kittens on campus. And if it is too hot, I'm going to go up and run a little bit on the treadmill or do some sort of a workout. It is now part of my DNA, and I'm not willing to give that until, hopefully, I'll be active until my, 80s, 90s. We'll see.
Thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very happy for us to have this conversation, and it just gives me so much positive energy. It gives me so much energy to go outside and do what I love the most, or to get that project done, or to get that workout done. And I have so much respect for all the effort and the consistency that you kept, because I know that it takes sweat and blood to get this done. So thank you for being here with me today.
I appreciate your
pleasure.
Words. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode of Unformed. The most powerful stories come from the ones we see every day. Not every journey is loud. Some are quiet, raw, and still changing lives. This is Unformed, where real stories unfold.